Some books don't just tell stories, they reveal hidden truths. On today's episode of Hidden Secrets in Books, we are joined by Johnzelle, a licensed therapist and author of Mixtape, a memoir. He uses storytelling as a tool for healing, exploring mental health, race, identity, and relationships through both professional insights and lived experience. An avid reader of nearly 100 books a year, he brings a deep, reflective lens to every conversation. He lives in Virginia with his daughter and his energetic Sheprado. Johnzelle, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Johnzelle. Johnzelle, before we get started on the show, can you please introduce yourself to my listeners?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Johnzelle Anderson. I guess describe myself as a therapist and a storyteller. I, like you said, I live in Virginia in the United States, and I love to read. My favorite genre to read is memoir, and my debut book is a memoir. So, um, some people say that they're an open book, but I can joke that I literally am an open book. So,
Thank you very much, Johnzelle. Let's get started on the show. What does the mistake, what does the title Mistake, a memoir, represent for you emotionally and personally?
yeah. So the title mixtape is twofold. So um, more literally, it is based around a playlist. And we all know a mixtape is like a playlist you make for a friend or somebody that surrounds a theme. So at the beginning of my book, I have QR codes to the playlist that goes with my book, and I use it as a framework to structure the stories that I tell in the memoir. And another thing that the second meaning to the title is that the word mixtape has the word mixed in it, which is how I was described growing up because I am the West African father and white mother, so they call me mixed. So the title mixtape has two meanings: the musical, but also the identities, which are both kind of covered in.
Thank you very much, Johnzelle. Johnzelle, growing up mysteries in 1990s, Riona K. Described feeling like an outsider in every room. How did that shape your sense of identity and belonging?
Yeah, feeling like an outsider. Um, I think it's normal for us to compare ourselves. What we look like, how we feel, what someone has, what we don't have, that sort of thing. So my experience was that of being raised black with brown skin, but raised in whiteness because my father wasn't very present. So I was raised in whiteness in that my white mother and maternal grandmother were my primary caregivers. Feeling like an outsider, though, started with experiences of racism in the home, experiences of bullying and not quite fitting in various settings, and then as most people do as they develop, they uh, try to develop their sense of identity. But we live in a world that will um, tell you what your identity is if you don't have it figured out. And I didn't necessarily have a home life that fostered me having a strong sense of self. So that sense of feeling like an outsider was an ongoing theme there as I, came of age.
Thank you very much, Johnzelle. Jonesy, how did your relationship with your parents influence your early understanding of love, safety, and self worth?
Yeah, I think, I at least I believe this as a therapist. Like my I work with clients, and they're oftentimes the relationships that they have early on in life are kind of a framework for how to see other relationships that you build later on. I knew from an early age that I was unwanted, um, and I was raised somewhat in that tradition, and that I was expected to stay out of the way, not to, basically to be seen and not heard. Um, and From the father standpoint, you have a person who um, didn't try very hard to connect with me. Um, and From the mother side of things, there was volatility, abuse, neglect, and, um, you know, uh, my relationship with my parents are conflicted. And I think those early experiences showed me that it made me a person who was seeking connection, but not really knowing uh, how to find reciprocity and connection. So throughout the book, you see me going through a series of relationships where I'm trying to understand what that is without a good blueprint to go by with those parent relationships.
Thank you very much, Johnzelle. Johnzelle, what role did your grandmother's love play in grounding you through childhood trauma and instability?
Yeah. So my grandmother, in my early years, was an example of hope. She served as someone who loved me and cared about me while I was going through those other adverse experiences that I described. Um, and, through all the stuff that I went through as a child, I did feel that my grandmother loved me, and she made me feel special. So, you know, having a spark of hope, or having somebody that does seem to care about you in the middle of tough situations, it definitely can and save a person from giving up. So I would say that that's the role that my grandmother played early on.
Thank you very much, Johnzelle. Johnzelle, can you let us know, was there a moment in your life when survival started to shift into something closer to healing?
Yeah. Um, I think survival shifted into healing, definitely maybe mid to late 20s. Um, in, you know, Building my career in mental health, and distancing myself from my family of origin more. Um, I started my own business, and, was working with clients, and I had been through quite a bit of therapy myself. And I was building, a family of my own, and kind of getting to the other side of what I had experienced growing up. So the healing journey is ongoing, but I think it kind of kicked into high gear around that era.
Thank you very much, Johnzelle. Johnzelle, you wrote this memoir in tracks instead of chapters. Why was music the right structure for telling your story?
Can you say that last part again?
You wrote this memoir in tracks instead of chapters. Why was music the right structure for telling your story?
Yeah. Music is very important to me. It is one of my favorite mediums of storytelling to consume, and it has the ability to make you feel something. It provides comfort. So in telling my story, I imagined my life being a movie and having a soundtrack to that movie. Um, and so that's why I have a playlist instead of a table of contents, and I have tracks instead of chapters because I wanted those songs to um, be a framework, but also to carry the story forward, but also to resonate with what I was talking about. So the ability to integrate sound into my prose was a concept that I really wanted to do, and I'm happy with how it turned out.
Thank you very much, Jonesy, for that answer. Jonesy, as a therapist, how did writing this book challenge or deepen your understanding of your own lived experience?
Yeah, I've been pretty forthcoming as a therapist with my clients about adverse life experiences, because I believe that the um, the narrative are stories of who we are. So, um, when relevant, and obviously keeping the client at the center, share stories about things that I've been through to help a client understand, to show them that we're all human on the journey. Writing this book helped me to do a lot of processing, healing, but also it was pretty challenging um, at some times. And the cool thing is that it's an example to my clients, because they come in and they tell their stories, um, and in being an author, I'm telling my story. Um, so I'm a living example of practicing what I preach. So being vulnerable, being honest, and um, this book is an extension of the work that I do, but it's not to be confused with, you pick up this book, don't think that you're reading a therapeutic kind of like clinical analysis of my life. It's very um, down to earth and humorous and um, conversational. So it it was me using this medium to tell my story. To Yeah, it's a way to show that I was here and that I exist and have some things to say.
Jonesy,
Yes,
your story confronts abuse, racism, and silence. What was the hardest truth to put into words?
yeah. Um, so my memoir um, has a theme of realizing that reciprocated relationships will hurt you because they're unsustainable. Um, Two of the hardest parts of the book to write, one was early on, it's track 8, and one was late in the book, track 34. Um, and one was, the earlier one was confronting and acknowledging a traumatic experience that I had as a child. And then the later one was very much a being an adult and being in a position of being okay, but then getting disappointed, and you know getting being disappointed, having a sense of betrayal and heartbreak. Um, so they're very human experiences, both of those examples, but uh, those putting to words those experiences were some of the hardest ones to write in Mixtape.
Thank you very much, Johnzelle. Here's my final question for you. After telling this story, what do you hope readers carrying their own hidden pain or identity struggles take away from this tale?
Yeah. Uh, from reading my book, I want people to understand that we are worthy of connection, and connection can be broken down into love, like, and understanding. We should love, like, and understand ourselves. We have the ability to love, like, and understand others. And we uh, deserve to have love, like, and understanding reciprocated to us from others. And finding those connections in the world that we live in is not always easy. But knowing that you're worthy of that is a start.
Thank you very much, Johnzelle. Johnzelle, before you go, I still have one more question for you. What is that one question you wish people would ask you more about?
You know, if somebody were to ask me, like, if they really wanted to get to know me, it would be cool if someone asked me, what is your magical way to save the world? Um, and my answer would be that when we interact with each other, we have the ability to either make someone's day worse, make it better, or to leave them alone. And I believe that if we removed the option to make someone's day worse, we would have world peace. I wish more people thought like that.
Okay, Johnzelle, thank you for being my guest on this special episode. Thank you for coming to my show. There are people who are listening right now and they want to be able to connect with you and know more about your work and your mixtape as well. So how can they do that?
Yeah, thank you for having me today. Uh, those who want to connect with me, Mixtape a Memoir is available on my website, which is johnzelle.co. It's spelled JOHN, like Nancy, Z like zebra, ELLE.co. Um, that's my website where you can find the book. It's available in paperback, hardcover, ebook. It's also available as an audiobook, and all of those links are available on the website. Um, you can also just search Mixtape a Memoir by Johnzelle Anderson wherever you buy books online. You should be able to find it. It's widely distributed. If you want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at Johnzelle underscore, the same spelling, JOHNZELLE underscore. So those are two places you can find me.
Thank you very much once again, Johnzelle. Thank you for being my guest. Thank you for coming to my show. Some stories don't end when the last page is done. They echo. Today on Hidden Secrets in Books, we have stepped inside Mixtape, a memoir with Johnzelle. And what we found wasn't just a life story, it's the rhythm of survival, identity, and becoming. If this conversation stirs something in you, let it. Sit with it. Rewind it if you need to. Because sometimes the real secret in books is what they awaken in us. Until next time, see you. And thank you for coming once again, John.
Thank you.